Hi, everybody. I wanted to welcome everyone and say thank you for joining us today. This is the second talk in our annual BoulderTalks Insights from Education Innovator series this year. The series came about from a desire to bring to campus visiting experts who are innovating quality online education. But as we find, a lot of the work that we're doing in the online space also carries over into the residential space as well. But through this community, we hope to explore current themes like learning excellence, innovating credentials, scaling design, expanding access and opportunity, and ensuring success across multiple modalities. With so much of what we do in online education, right, this speaker series is a community effort. So I want to recognize co-sponsors for the speaker series. That includes the Center for Teaching and Learning, the Office of Information Technology, Continuing Education, University Libraries, Office of Digital Education, and the College of Engineering and Applied Sciences, and the Office of Academic and Learning Innovation. Okay, so I'd like to introduce our speaker today. I'm really excited to have Dr. Tawnya Means join us. Dr. Means serves as the Assistant Dean for Educational Innovation at the University of Illinois Geese College of Business. Dr. Means brings a wealth of experience to her teaching and seminars, contributing knowledge across diverse fields such as entrepreneurship, strategy, technology, and leadership in remote teams. Her multidisciplinary approach enriches instructional practice as she utilizes her expertise in course design to create engaging and inclusive learning environments that foster academic growth. In addition to her teaching, Dr. Means has led seminars in online and blended education and provided consultations on teaching and technology. Her research interests are centered on online and blended learning, active learning, learning space design, and the use of technology in education. She's dedicated to exploring innovative methods to enhance the learning experience and ensure equitable access to digital resources. I should also say, in the last couple of years, really become an expert in the field of generative AI and how we apply that to the university space, both with students and faculty, and also in the workspace after students leave our universities. So with that, I want to welcome and invite to the stage our guest speaker, Dr. Tawnya Means.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here. And Randall, thank you. I've appreciated our collaborations over the last couple of years since we've been working together. I hope that what I can do here today, and I'm going to have to apologize because I don't like being tied to one space. So I'm going to try really hard to deal with that. But I would like to share with you some things that I have recognized and learned through my explorations with generative AI, some things that will hopefully help you and give you some ideas about ways to be more creative or more productive with your use. And then also I'm going to give you a little bit of time during the session to be able to play a little bit as well. And so hopefully it's applicable relative to what you need. So first of all, I'll start off by giving you just a few of the thoughts and concepts that I have around AI as it relates to our teaching, learning, creative, workforce, everything that you can think of. I'm going to share a little bit of background about what I think AI can do for us. And then I'm also going to share with you a few statistics, but then I also want to dig into some of the specifics of how it can work. Now, I did a talk earlier today, and a couple of you I see are here, so you'll see a little bit of repeated, but hopefully that's okay. All right, so let's get started here. Oh, first of all, I am supposed to give this little disclaimer that while I may talk about specific tools, you should contact your IT person before actually implementing any tools in your work. Now, I'm going to share with you some specifics about certain tools, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things that I think some tools are better at than others. And your mileage may vary a little bit, but I also want to encourage you to have a mindset to think about exploring and focusing on what you can gain from your use with these tools. So having given this disclaimer, I'll talk just a little bit here about some statistics. So my work is primarily in the business school environment. So some of the results that I'm going to share, or some of the information I'm going to share with you, is specific to business schools, but I also want to recognize that I do a lot of work across campus with other units, and recognize that some of these things that I'll tell you about that are in the business school environment, they apply more broadly. And there was a report that was given from 2024 from the application trend survey. by GMAC. And what we saw was that 70%, more than 70% of schools are reporting that they're using generative AI in some form in their courses. Now, that could be everything from a specific course has one assignment to across the curriculum, multiple courses, to even saying that there is research being done around AI and how it can integrate into the things that they do. So that said, more than 70%, that doesn't mean that everybody's doing it or that everybody knows what they're doing. So there's still a lot of room for growth and exploration in this. We know that a lot of users are on these platforms, varying platforms, different capabilities. Some of them are better at one thing and not as good at other things, but there are still a lot of people who are using, and that growth is pretty much exponential. There was a study that Harvard put out where they worked with BCG, Boston Consulting Group consultants, and they measured their use, their tasks that they completed using AI versus a control group. And they found that 25.1% tasks completed more quickly, and 12.2% more tasks in total, and over 40% higher quality from the control group. So if you think about this was a group of people who are applying a new tool, if you can look at the productivity gains there and then recognize how those could be applicable to different units, different tasks, different opportunities, why would we not want to dig into and explore what we can do with this? And then this one is one that I really appreciate. It's a very small study, but it was done in Nigeria with secondary students, where they gave 6 weeks of educational learning with AI. And they found that in those 6 weeks, they increased their learning by 0.3 standard deviations, which measures out to about 2 years of learning. And girls were actually impacted even better than boys. So what this kind of points us to is the idea that we could use these tools to increase and expand what we can do in terms of learning, but also that we can help to level set some of these populations that maybe have struggled more with learning in the past. Now, there's a lot of work that can be done to further define what that means and how we do it, but just knowing that the opportunities are there is really important for us to think about, is it worth moving forward? There are lots of ways that we think about innovation and how those can move forward, and also a lot of challenges with trying to figure out how we make those opportunities more readily available and do more for more people. So I want to talk about 3 different ones. And some of what I'm referring to is in an article that is linked in this slide deck. And so Randall, I'll share the slides with you afterwards. You can share them out and everybody can follow up to learn a little bit more. But the idea of evaluation overload is that if we have a lot of people who are looking at something and they're all trying to crowdsource that evaluation and look at it from their perspective, what they know, what they need, and then we get this massive amount of data, then it can be too much to really evaluate how applicable it is in each individual situation or context. And so it can be really hard to take really good ideas and bring them together into something that's useful and applicable. We also have the challenge of the curse of expertise, in which I, as a domain expert, may come up with specific ideas, but they're feasible, but not really that novel. They've maybe been tried before, maybe successfully or not successfully. And then people who don't have the same kind of knowledge that I have may come up with really cool novel ideas, but they're really not something that you can do. And so if we try to take ideas from both the experts and from the novice, and we bring them together, sometimes we can get something that is actually feasible and a new idea. And then the idea of when you're in it, it's really hard to see the big picture. And so seeing the forest for the trees, we look at a lot of times a comprehensive solution can be really hard to come at because it's going to be challenging to try and figure out the specifics of details of how it will work for each individual. So these are some of our challenges. We think about now the possibilities with AI. If we can use AI to analyze large amounts of data, and to look for insights that maybe as an individual I might not notice, but the bigger analysis can be really helpful. So then if we think about some of the ways that we can use AI, we can do things like we can look at efficiency. How can we take some of the tasks that we're doing and do them in different, more effective ways? Can we do things like I don't have to attend every meeting because the notes are transcribed from that meeting and then the insights are given to me so that I don't then have to just watch the meeting later. Can I put together reports that highlight some of the things that would be valuable for me to know, to be able to then make decisions? Can I look for summaries of information? If I have a crowdsourced kind of idea, can I put together some summaries of things? I also like using these tools as a brainstorming partner. So suggest 5 marketing strategies is the example I gave, but it could be a whole lot of other ideas. Give me 3 different ways that I could approach this conversation. Give me a list of the kinds of questions that I might get after I submit this report. And a lot of times that can be something that can really help me plan ahead or think about some of the things that I might be intending to do. In no way am I offloading my thinking. I'm asking it to help me to think. And so that partner idea. Also, a lot of people are familiar with the idea of prompting, but maybe not as familiar with the idea of reverse prompting. So just like I said, tell me the questions that might come out of this report. It's the same thing where you say, maybe you put in a document and say, maybe I've written a report and I want to put it in and say, give me some ways that I can improve this and ask me questions until you understand what I'm looking for. So the AI will then ask me questions and I will give the responses and it will improve the outcome based on what it's evaluating about me. And you can start really broad and as you go, get more and more refined. Some of the tools will allow you to set up projects or groupings of content that you can then use to build on and refine later. I also really like this idea of persona-driven solutions. So I could ask it to give me personas of 3 of my users or 3 types of students that I might have in my class. It can analyze information to kind of condense that into the personas, and then I can shape my messages or my conversations to those personas. So if you're defining the audience, if you're saying what kind of input traits you want, then you can generate new information based on those personas. So I mentioned something about the article that's linked. I'm going to pull out just a few pieces and talk you through these as a thought experiment. So one of the things this article talked about was the idea of getting divergent thinking going. So they said, we put in an elephant and a butterfly and then asked for product ideas that merge the 2 together. And so you see all the different products that they could create based on this idea of an elephant and a butterfly. I've seen a really classic one where it says like a piece of furniture shaped like an avocado. And so it creates a chair that looks like an avocado. My daughter wants one of those, by the way. But this idea of using it to then create those visuals that you can then use to prompt further exploration or further work. Maybe I say to my students, now I want you to, looks like we've got lots of ideas of different ways we can have chocolate. Let's talk about what it would take to start a chocolate business. And you can build a business plan around this idea of chocolates and what they would do and where you would need to go and what inputs you need and all of the different pieces of it from this idea. So one of the prompts that they gave in the article was this one that I'm putting up here and I'm going to talk through just a little bit. So it used to be back when we first started with AI, you really needed to understand how to best prompt an AI in order to get what you wanted out of it. You're really not needing to do that quite as much anymore. And I would say in the next 6 months or even more, a little bit more, you're really going to just be able to ask anything and it's going to be able to do a pretty good job. But it's also helpful to know a little bit about how prompting works. And so this is a good example. So what we've done here is just a little bit of a prompt in saying that your role as the AI is to be an ideator. You're going to help me. And then I give it the task. So we've kind of specified what we want it to do from what its persona should be, and then what we want it to do. And that includes what we want it to do as well as what we want it to ask us to do. So in this case, we're saying you're going to have the role of an ideator. You're going to generate 10 common nouns. Then you're going to randomly select any of 2 of those and ask me for a third. And then based on that, generate a business idea. All right, so I actually did this, hit talk or chat, and it gave me notebook, and bicycle, and I came up with the third one as diary, and it generated an idea for a nomadic journal, smart travel journal or diary. And then it specified like, what is this? What are the features of this? Now, once I have this, then I can do so much more. I can go into, well, maybe that's not exactly what I want. Give me another one. Or I can say, well, that sounds like a good idea. Let's explore it. And so you can really kind of get the conversation started, so to speak, and get some pretty creative ideas by doing this. All right, so then from there, we can look at a couple of things that will help us to overcome some of the biases that we might have. So this is a quote from the article, but it's basically talks about 3 different kinds of biases that this helps to overcome. One is this design fixation, which is an over-reliance on standard design forms. So for example, when we looked at that elephant and butterfly, we don't usually think of those 2 being together, but then there's some biases that we have about, well, what would that mean if an elephant and butterfly were together? What kinds of things are we limited by? So it kind of helps to remove some of those standard design features or forms that we have. Then this idea of functional fixedness, which is the inability to imagine something beyond what you're traditionally focused on. So for example, with my idea of the journal, I wouldn't think of using a notebook and a bicycle together. So I came up with a diary when it gave me bicycle and journal or notebook, but maybe I could ask it to try again. And it might give me with a different word, and it might give me 10 more words that I could choose from, which would come up with a different idea. So it can help me to kind of break beyond what I'm used to with my traditional background and ideas. And then this last one, the Einstein effect, where all of my previous experiences will impede me from coming up with new solutions. So let's dig into that one just a little bit more. In coming up with this ability to move beyond the initial start. So I put in, I asked it for basically 3 different ways that we could address urban mobility. It came up with 3, AI-powered smart traffic, on-demand microtransit networks, and pedestrians, cyclist-centric design. So from there, with just those titles, I can dig into it a little bit more. So it's helped me to generate ideas, but then it also can help me to evaluate those ideas and go further. So I'm going to stop the show just for a second here and show you what that looks like. So I'm jumping it into a conversation that I previously had, and I want to walk you through just a couple of things in that conversation. So I just said 3 ideas for improving mobility, comes up with those 3 ideas. And then I said, analyze the pros and cons, strengths and weaknesses of each idea. So then it gives me some pros, some cons for each one of them. And then I can dig into that further, and I'll show you some screenshots of what I did later. But basically, I can ask it to do a lot more evaluation of those. But what's really fun is I went in and I said, okay, let's have a conversation between 2 people who are discussing this topic, and let's dig into what their conversation is. So you see it creates 2 characters. It goes through and it has the conversation. And then at the very end, there's the conversation. Now, and I demonstrated this in the earlier session, and I won't try it here because I don't want to mess with the audio, but basically I can turn on voice mode and I can say, add me to the conversation. And then I can have my part of the conversation. AI can have the other parts of the conversation. And between that back and forth, it's transcribing everything that I'm saying and everything that the AI is putting out. And it's supporting that conversation. So whatever I say, it's going to respond with some other part of the conversation. And that back and forth can help with both the evaluation of the idea, but also building something more. And so then I can take the analysis of the actual conversation and create something new based on that. I'll show you a couple of screenshots here. I think I have. Yeah, so this is when I said evaluate these ideas based on the novelty, the feasibility, the specificity, impact, and workability. So then it's going to give me an evaluation framework for each of those ideas. And then it's going to allow me to go even further and evaluate them against each other with some conclusions. And all of that is based on that interactive back and forth activity. So then I could go even further after it's done all of that analysis, and I can say, merge these ideas into one idea that's comprehensive and fits what I'm looking for. And so then it can create an entire report about an integrated mobility system, which is pretty fascinating. It tells me why this approach will work and helps me with a vision that I can then use this to go and create a pitch, a report, bring together people into a committee to discuss the ideas further, etc. All right. So given what I've just shared with you, I also wanted to touch base on just a little bit of how companies are using this. So I just talked to somebody from IBM last week, and he shared with me that they're basically integrating AI into a lot of what they're doing. And here's one aspect of what they're doing. So they're automating their routine tasks. They're using it to focus their sales team on relationship building as opposed to kind of some of the things that they've been doing in the past. They are using it to identify high profile or high potential prospects. They are looking at how they can personalize and use data to create insights into what they're doing. They're also using it for some automated outreach and content creation, and using it to generate emails, create sales scripts, even to look at proposals and how they can more quickly generate proposals. I've been doing a lot of that with some of the work that I'm doing. I have a proposal. I've gotten kind of some input from AI into creating that proposal. I send it to the client. They've got some feedback. I put it back into AI with the feedback. It helps me to generate a new proposal very quickly. So it can help you to move a lot faster to be able to do the work that you've already been doing. And then there are, I have a link here, 321 other real-world generative AI use cases. I would love to have you explore those and see more of the ways that companies are integrating AI into everything they're doing. And this 321, that one was in December. It's probably significantly higher than that even now in March. And I bet by December next year, it's going to be exploded even further. Because what's happening is people are starting to catch the vision and they're applying that vision to their context. And so we're going to see a lot more of people being inspired with different ideas and things that they can do. And one of the conversations we had earlier today, it was somebody was saying, it seems so amazing how these ideas seem to be organically generating in different places, but they're similar. And so we're seeing lots of people who are seeing lots of different ideas and lots of different ways that things can connect. And they're starting to have conversations with each other. And that prompts even more conversations and more growth. So I'm excited to see where that heads. I also wanted to touch base on one thing, a couple of ideas around how to use AI yourself. So how many of you are actually using AI on a daily basis? Good. All right. Quite a few people. The more you use it, the more you will start to recognize how you can continue to use it. But for those people who use it like Google, ask it a question like Alexa, or use it for something simple like, where should I eat for dinner? What do I need at the grocery store? How should I plan my vacation? I don't discourage people from doing it that way, but I also say you've got to take beyond that. It can't just be those simple kinds of things where you don't really care about the answer and it's not really impactful. You really have to try it on things that matter. And so if you use it as a partner, if you're using it to do things with you, you're going to find a lot more success. And you're also going to find that some tools fit really well for that task, and some tools you need to switch to. So be comfortable with trying more than one tool. A lot of times I will start the same task in 2 different tools and evaluate the result that comes out of it. And sometimes I'll even take the result from one tool and put it in the other tool and say, fix this, so feel comfortable. I mean, I know that in some ways we're creatures of habit and we like to have particular paths that we go down all the time. But this is really a time when we need to be more open to being adaptable and flexible and recognizing the value of that malleability a little bit as tools gain and lose the competition with each other and getting better over time. So a couple of things that I've put out here is things that you could try. Helping you with your writing. I've talked about several ways in which I do that. Helping you with completing tasks that you have to do. I have one person I was talking to the other day, he was like, I have to write all these recommendation letters. I have the elements of what I want to say, but I don't really have the time to sit and write each letter from scratch. And so he'll put into a generative AI tool, here's the things that I remember about this student's behavior in my class, write a letter that fits this context. So maybe it's a job description or a program that they're applying to, a graduate program they're applying to, whatever. And then it will write a letter that brings in elements from what the student was like, as well as what the program or letter is needed for, and matches them together in a very seamless and natural way. And then he can go in and edit it and change it and adjust it. But then he can also do the same thing for 25 students, as opposed to it takes an hour every letter I write. Anytime you're stuck on something, it's a really good tool to just say, I need to write this report on this topic. I don't really know where to start. Can you just give me an outline? And then that outline can then be fleshed out and enhanced based on whether it's a good fit for what you're looking for, or maybe needs to be adjusted. And then there's so many other things you can do with AI besides just text. So videos and images and code and even some of the tools allow you to create interactive web pages and things like that, where write the code and let me play with it, and then take that code and actually write it in a way that you can use it. So lots of different ways in which these tools can be used. All right, I mentioned I wanted to give you a little bit of a hands-on. So I've got a QR code up here for, and anybody who needs the bit.ly link as well. It is case sensitive, so just make sure that you're doing it exactly as typed there. But it has, I'll leave that up there for just a minute and then I'll show you. It has a Google Doc that has some challenges. And I'd love for you, either here in the room or online, to look at one of those challenges. You can do it as a group as you want to, or you can do it individually. Look at one of those challenges and select one that fits for you, or create your own, and then do something with AI with that. And I'll give you a place where you can put that in there to share what you've done. So I'm going to switch over real quickly here to the Google Doc so you can see it. All right, so you can do groups or you don't have to, but here are the challenges. And then if you want, you can tweak the challenge and write something completely on your own. But use a tool of your choosing. So I know you have access to Copilot, but if you want to explore in some of the other tools, you can try Claude. You can try ChatGPT, the free version. You can try Perplexity. There's several other tools that you can try. But grab one of these challenges and use AI to do something with it. Okay, so I will jump us back into looking at this here. I will leave this for you to go and explore later. And if you didn't get a chance to add your stuff in and you want to add it later, that's fine too. But I just want to show you a couple of things. One is the variety. So we started with a set number of prompts, but we've got lots of different kinds of ideas, lots of different resources and things to think about. I love the pet walker, the pet dog walker one. We've got some different areas where we could explore. Depending on which tool you use, you have a different kind of view of what the output looks like. So go and look at this more later, but I want to jump into just a couple of things here. So one is just a reminder that generative AI is best when it is considered to be iterative. So that conversation that you're having, the prompt that you put in initially is not the most important part. You're not going to get the best results just by putting in a prompt and expecting an outcome that you like. So when we were talking about the dog walker one, they had the AI created a schedule. Well, there's lots of ways that schedule could be improved. So ask it, if I had an extra hour in the day, where should I spend my hour? Or it says, well, there's some challenges with your limitations about your social activity if you're doing all of this. Well, ask it, how can I improve my social ability if I still, or my social networking, if I still have to do this amount of work in this time frame. So asking it questions and being very iterative is a critical piece of learning how to use these tools. We did talk a little bit about prompting, but I want to go beyond that just to say, whatever you get out, ask it to either do it again or do it a different way, or think of other ways that this could be useful, but always asking it to do more than what initially put in there. I love this idea of asking it to explain something to you. ELI 5, explain it like I'm 5. Any concept that you put in there, whether it's quantum mechanics or something very simple like butterflies. Well, it's not really actually very simple, but if you put something in and then say, explain this to me on a lower level, it can help with scaffolding. So think about it from a student perspective, but think about it from you. From your perspective, if you've got a task that your boss has asked you to do, put the prompt in there and ask it to help you to understand everything you need to know in order to be successful with that project. And then once you have that understanding, then you can scaffold off of that to make it more comprehensive or more complete. I asked earlier about how many of you are using it daily. I would suggest using it with everything. So everything that you're given that you need to do or that you want to do, try it with AI and see, what does this do? How does this make it better? Maybe it's not good enough. Maybe you need to do something differently, but try it with everything. So if you're thinking, can AI do X, Y, and Z? Try it. And when you do that, you're going to start to recognize where it works well for you and where you need to do something different or find a different tool, but you're going to be constantly learning. It can actually do really complex things. So initially, AI couldn't read images. So I had heard about a bunch of faculty that were going in and creating their tests with images. And I was like, don't do that, because what you're actually doing is you're increasing your workload. And then when the capability catches up, which it did very quickly, to be able to review images, now you've done all this work, you've made your content inaccessible, and you have to go back and redo it again. So recognize that things are constantly changing, that any kind of circumvention that you're trying to do around what its capabilities are, you're going to be quickly outpaced, but allow it to be more complex, to do more comprehensive things than you would have done normally. I'm currently working on a report that initially my boss just said, I just want to know what business schools are doing in terms of AI. Create a document that tells me what they're doing. So I started with that. But now I've got so much more complexity in that report that I'm generating. Not only is it going to have what business schools are doing in terms of AI, but it's also going to propose ways that that you could go further, that you take it beyond that. It's going to propose challenges that will be faced. It's going to propose a comprehensive analysis between schools and what they're doing, and maybe the resources that they're using versus what you have available. So make things more complex by using these tools to be able to get more done faster. And then today is the worst year ever going to see of generative AI. It's always going to get better. I tell this story often, but I was in a workshop talking about automation. Somebody asked me if I could have the generative AI automate. We collected information, we created a report, and then I said, and now send it to email. And they said, well, can AI just automatically send it to email? And I said, well, no, not today, but it's going to soon. And then the very next day, Operator was announced, which Operator is an agentic AI, which will do tasks for you. Now you can tell it to go to websites, review the websites, collect information, create screen caps, and then propose something, build a new website that's based on that. I mean, there's just so many things that agentic AI can now do that even 6 weeks ago couldn't do. I like to think of AI as an intern. So I pay $20 a month for the Plus account with ChatGPT. I pay $20 a month for the Pro account with Claude. And that is the cheapest intern I could ever have, right? Because if I know how it works, then I can give it the right kinds of tasks, and it can be doing a lot of things that I wouldn't necessarily have the time to do. It can be really good at some of the analysis that I ask it to do, some of the writing, thinking about marketing, thinking about different ways, just consulting with it as a brainstorm partner. It can be very productive and can put out a lot of stuff. But even though it's eager to please and wants to learn from you, it will outright lie to you, completely lie to you, and tell you that it did something that it didn't do, or that it updated something that it didn't done. Or we've all heard about the hallucinations about, really great studies that it will link to that don't even exist. They've never been done, but maybe they should be done. So just recognizing that you have to verify everything, and you can ask it to help you verify, but even then it may not. It may tell you outright, yeah, that's a good link. It's not. But then also just recognizing that if you can work around those quirks and that naivety that's in there, you're going to be able to do a lot more productivity, and really it's invigorating to be so able to accomplish so much, and to get so much further. The little conversation we had about using projects instead of just an individual chat. Once you kind of know how those quirks are, it can be really fun. So with that, I'll wrap it up but I do want to give some time if you have questions, and then if any of the online people have questions, but I'd love to follow up with you online through LinkedIn. If you have any things that you'd like to share with me, maybe you took the project that we started today and did something with it. I want to hear about the dog walker schedule and how that's working. So feel free to follow up with me on LinkedIn.
Let's thank Dr. Tawnya for that great talk.